Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today I'm going to be giving my thoughts and a recap of Episode 8 of Critical Role Campaign 3. Yeah, I thought it was a fun episode, but I'll get to my thoughts more at the end, and I'll give a recap first, like normal. First thing, we need to remember where we are when we started, which was walking from the Dreamscape Theater back to the Spire by Fire Tavern with the newly acquired Chetney. And first thing of note that Chetney does is, gets scared by Laudna, which everyone seems to in this episode, which is hilarious. They talk a little bit with Chetney, and he says he wants to, he heard that they're good at finding people and that he can use them to help find his friend. But they said that they only find people dead, or that so far they've only found people who are dead. And Chetney nearly leaves at this idea, but doesn't. We learn Chetney's only been in the city for about a week or two. And that Chetney is looking for someone named Gurge. Gurge was helping Chetney find work in the city. We learn that Chetney went to Gurge's place to find him, and he saw that his place was tossed and the furniture was all over the place. They begin to question Chetney a little bit, see if he's, good or bad. FCG and Laudna specifically, they decide to play good Wilder, bad Wilder. They crack immediately. They can't put it together. And eventually the whole group kind of joins them. So then after that, we, get to learn a bit more about him. They also introduce themselves to him. And Chetney seems to have a dislike for Dorian. I don't know why. To me, I didn't catch why he's being this way toward him. We learn Chetney has woodworking tools and doesn't seem to have any traditional weapons on him. He makes toys because people don't appreciate furniture. And we also learn he's from Uthadern. He came to Marquette to find Gurge to help him get work. We learn a bit about Gurge's physical appearance. He has shoulder-length curly or scraggly hair, and he's about Ashton's height. He was helping Chetney find some work, and then he disappeared. FCG asks exactly what kind of work he was looking for. Chetney kind of dodges the question a little bit, but it's eventually revealed that he was there to be like a master craftsman of woodworking. Chetney tells them that Gurge lives in the Smolder Spire, and he was supposed to meet someone outside the city that day before he went missing. Chetney believes he might have been arrested. Dorian says maybe he should look at the jail to see if Gurge is there. Chetney reveals the reason he was at the theater was because Gurge likes to go there. Not too many people seem to know that Gurge is missing. The party offer to help him, but for a price. And then Fern gets told by Imogen that Chetney will be able to make her a toy. And she's super down for that being her payment. And then, slowly following, everyone else does. Including Laudna, who wants a toy rat for Pate, because Pate is horny. Chetney is very quickly becoming one of my favorite characters of the group. Travis absolutely kills it as him. It's perfect. And now they all want toys, because of course they do. If Gurge is dead, the group offers to take him to the other master craftsman that he mentioned earlier. At this point, Matt whispers to Liam, because I'm assuming Liam's passive perception was high enough. Chetney tells the party that he can pick almighty locks that no one else has been able to do yet. So instead of smashing doors, they can now pick them. Chetney. Chetney is definitely my favorite character. I think. I had to think about it just there in my mind, mental loop. But just the amount of fun Travis is having with this character, and kind of what I predicted with him being a rogue, he seems to be able to just do whatever he wants. And that big red button is going to be there for him to push at any moment. Orm reveals that the guy he and Laudna followed and lost earlier outside the theater is at the Spire by Fire. Imogen looks for him and sees him on the first floor. Imogen thinks he's probably a Corsairs member. She also doesn't think he followed them there specifically, which we later learn he did. Once he sees that they've noticed him, he begins to leave. Orm and Chetney chase after him, and this is where we get to see Chetney's stealthing ability into play, with a 20, a nice dirty 20. Orm doesn't do very well trying to stealth behind the guy, and loses Chetney because his passive perception wasn't high enough. But Chetney is slow, so when he goes to cut off the guy who's running away from them, he has to quickly pull out his chisels. Sorry about that. His chisels, and start shaving away to look. He basically hides in plain sight and does a really good job doing it. At this point, I start to think that it might be Dorian's older brother. Chetney stays behind to watch him as eventually Orm and him catch up, and they decide to just kind of yell at him to see if he'll stop and talk to him. The guy wants to talk to Dorian specifically. Orm goes to get him. Chetney kind of leans up behind the guy and is just asks if he trusts Dorian, and the guy says yes, and Chetney does not agree with this, and then kind of runs off to hide somewhere else, I presume. Orm goes back and tells the group that the guy only wants to talk to Dorian, but the whole group goes. At this point, they all meet up with him, and it's revealed that it is his older brother, Cyrus. After a bit of talking, they convince him to go back to the Spire by Fire, and at one point, I noticed that, at one point, they call Dorian, and Cyrus is shocked by the name, and shocked by the last name of Storm, and I felt amazingly betrayed by this, because I thought the first name might be fake, but I thought Storm had to be it, right? I thought that they're Arashari, right? So I was that's a perfect name, but no, I was absolutely betrayed by this, but I like their real last name. It's even better. He asks Imogen and Laudna not to speak into his mind. He's not a big fan of that. The brothers reveal they weren't expecting to see each other, and throughout this conversation we learn more about Dorian, how he and his brother are the elder sons of the leader of the Silken Squall, that's it. A traveling tent city. And they're the eldest brothers, with Cyrus being the older of the two. We learn that Dorian's middle name is literally Second Son, and that there is a bounty on Cyrus's head worth 20,000 gold. He was hired to protect the stagecoach, and the rest of the people hired to protect it was a stage itself. It was a stick-up, and they turned on it, and Dorian took the fall for it. It was a job by the Coin Guild of the Coin Guild of Treasury. Is what I have written down here, but that's probably an auto correct. That's the name from earlier with the Masonry Guild, I believe. They were the ones who hired him, and it's believed they put the bounty on him. I'm sorry for clearing my throat a lot. For some reason, it's dry. There was some people coming after Cyrus, but the Corsairs dealt with it after he joined them. Fern asks, why my notes seem really messed up today, my bad. So, Fern asks what exactly the brothers are, and this is where we learn that they are from the Silken Squall city, and that they are the eldest sons of the leader. Chetney wants to know Dorian's real name, as do I, but Dorian wants a airship with the biggest wings he can build that floats because of brimstone. But Chetney is kind of pissed off because he only works in wood, and Dorian will have to use his imagination. After that, we learn Dorian's name was Bronte Wyverwind. And we learn a bit more about the Silken Squall. It's a group of nomadic people that stay mostly in Marquette. We learn that Cyrus kind of felt betrayed by Dorian's leaving because that was what he was told to do. He was told to feel that that was wrong until he was eventually educated that that's what their people do, so he decided to leave as well. And then kind of Dorian gets mad at this because of the whole, he wanted to do something for his own. And then his better older brother immediately followed him out into the world, which, would feel crappy. As somebody who has a brother, it would feel weird to want to do something by yourself for that person only to just follow you immediately. Imogen seems to think that the guilds are up to something because there's a connection to everything they've done so far. With Cyrus, with some of the people going missing at the theater, and this mimic being there. There seems to be some sort of connection to a lot of their dealings. And the treachery name is attached to both guilds that they've kind of heard of so far. Imogen points out that the initials on Ashton's letter are the same that were on the chest that Cyrus mentioned from the robbery. We also learn that Cyrus had a pet rock after they revealed the Sending Stone, and Cyrus let this pet rock fucking die somehow, which is magnificent. Dorian and Cyrus leave so that Cyrus can go to the safe house of the Corsairs. They eventually make it. Dorian asks his older brother to stay safe and to not get into any trouble, and then gives him the Sending Stone, which boils my kettle so bad. Like, that's just dumb. I don't know how many times people have to give up items that could be really useful, because now if they split up the party, they're never going to know if one just completely gets wiped out. Like, that's silly to me. Dorian walks by himself, which we all know is very dangerous, back to the Spire by Fire, but he doesn't do it very stealthily. And after a bit of tension building from Matt, he makes it back safely. When we get back, Fern and Chetney seem to have a small little flirtatious moment, which was hilarious. They ask Dorian what he wants them to call him. He says he wants to be known as Dorian from them because that's what he told them. Fern asks if Dorian wants to be king of this Silken Squall, and Dorian doesn't really want it at all. And he explains that the king and queen of this Silken Squall are kind of equal rulers. There's no, I rule over this person, she's just my wife. It's equal, they both have a say. Dorian hides the fact that he gave the stone to his older brother. A smaller group at a different table kind of catches their attention, and one person is nailing something onto a job board or a notice board. It's a note against the Corsairs, calling for action against their violence, asking for the Paragon's call to get power in the city, which was interesting. They start talking about who could have possibly put the bounty on Cyrus. We learned that at one point in time, Ashton had a bounty on his head, and that if you get caught, you either pay a sentence or whatever the penalty is for it, or uh, you can pay it off slowly. You get put in debt, which is what he's doing or did. Wasn't made clear if he had done one or the other. After that, you talk a bit about the Paragon Call, and seem to think that it's a group of rich mercenaries who get hired by the rich to fight the people against the rich, which is basically what I gathered from all of it. They decide the first 48 hours of a missing persons case is the most important, so they go after Gurge to help Chetney. They go to the Smolder Spire, as they have a handful of leads there, surrounding Brimstone, Duggar, and now Gurge. We learn on the way there that Chetney hates metal due to the fact that his previous employer had changed directions and moved away from woodworking, and I'm going to assume that they moved to metallurgy, metal smithing, which he was not a fan of. They go into a cable car, and Fern starts to shake it, scaring Imogen pretty bad. She seems to not be fond of the idea of death and doesn't realize that in D&D, in only a handful more levels, they're not going to have to fear it all that much. We see an automaton is the one controlling these cable cars, and FCG tries to talk to it, but it's just doing its job, and he seems to acknowledge this. They follow Chetney to Gurge's place. When they get there, they see that it's been turned over, and after a bit of inspecting, they find some blood. My notes are so messed up today. My apologies. Laudna finds claw marks and some blood stains. The claw marks are a bit too big to be Shea Creepers. While they're investigating, a half-elven woman appears at the door, asking what they're doing. It's revealed she's the owner of the house, and says a dire wolf attack happened up the street. They're kind of like wolves, but dire. And then there was also an explosion, which happened only a couple days ago, which was the explosion that happened at the beginning of the first ever combat of this campaign, the furniture fight. And then there's also hauntings happening around the area. So this city is just falling apart. They start moving the furniture around and notice some bloodstains. Imogen, kind of pushes some of the dirt away and shit like that. And then Liam should get an Oscar for the coughing fit he had, because that was perfect. They find that there were some stained areas where blood should have been but was cleaned up. Fern gets mad for the Wilders killing the wolf. The wolf that's dire. It's revealed that this is not where Gurge actually lives, and the woman is just renting it out to him, and that Gurge more often lives in the jungle. It's here where we learn that Chetney got, kind of pushed out of his old job because of the change in their craftsmanship. Fern asks if it meant not working with wood, and Chetney says if he is... He explains that there is a change of directions in his old job, and then Fern asks if that meant not working with wood, which he was not a big fan of, and asks if she was in his head. My notes are so messed up today. I deeply apologize for this. Ashton breaks a table that Laudna had just fixed, because, and it's slowly becoming more apparent to me that Ashton is far more noble and Robin Hood-esque himself, because the reason he did it was because she thought it was fucked that this guy who is renting out her house has gone missing, and all she cares about is the money. They go toward the wolf attack, past the factory. They ask some Wilders about the attack. They ask if they know who got attacked. The Wilders react to the person who they name, which is Gurge. in a strange way and kind of run off. FCG casts detect thoughts. He hears, why do they know about him? How the fuck do they know about this guy? Fern decides to turn into a rat and stealth her way into the factory. She makes her way to the office and sees the two Wilders from before and someone else doing some paperwork in this office. They talk about Gurge, and the Wilders describes the party in probably the most honest way possible. It seems this campaign, more than the others, this is the weirdest collection of people. In the first campaign, they were, pretty straightforward. You had your typical lineup, two short people, and then a Goliath. In the next campaign, you had a decent mix-up of races, but it wasn't too out of nowhere. In this campaign, you have, like, a robot, two elemental people, a dead person, and a halfling, and now a gnome. Oh, and a fawn. So Fern, she stands out really well. The higher-up guard, or Wilder, says to tell them that Gurge was put in jail, and then he says he'll take care of the rest. At this point, the Wilders turn to exit and step on Fern, and she turns back into herself. And this is where Matt ends the episode, like a dickhead. Because now we know we have to go through 2 weeks. Is it 2 or 3? I'm gonna hope 2, but it might be 3. But yeah, fantastic episode. I wish my notes would reflect that. But you should go watch the episode if you haven't. Yeah, I thought that was a great episode. I enjoyed it. I thought we got lots of amazing stuff out of Chetney because he's new. We need to learn more about him so he can catch up to the rest of the cast. And we learned a lot about Dorian as well, which to me, based on how I feel about Robbie's, potential permanency in the group, to me says he might be leaving sooner than we expect, which might suck. I know a lot of people really want him to stay. I kind of want him to stay, but I just don't see it, if that makes a lot of sense. If they have 8 players, there's no room for guests, and they really like having guests, which is something I should have thought about when I made that video. But at the end of the day, this episode was great. No combat again, which is fine. It was also a shorter episode. And yeah, we learned a ton about the greater world of Marquette with this Silken Squall city that travels. At one point they said it was like a floating flying city. I when they first described it, I thought they literally packed up all their shit and moved. But then they were like, no, it's a flying city. I'm like, oh, that makes way more sense. The Smolder Spire seems to be an industrial poorer, spire, which we kind of learned a little bit. But this is like the first time we've explored it a little bit, and we've seen, some smaller houses and like crappy factories, and there's like a bunch of ash falling from the sky. And this was just a good episode. It built up more of the city of Dreshar in my mind, and it built the greater world of Marquette. It's beginning to expand more, which I love hearing. I love seeing it. So overall, good episode. Lots of good character stuff and character introductions. I love hearing the truth about characters. So Dorian being revealed as Bronte Wyberwind is an awesome name, which I just forgot and had to look at my notes. But it's dope. I really like this episode, and I'm really looking forward to what happens next in the new year. So, yeah, I'll see you guys on Tuesday, because that's my next video. I'm not taking any breaks. I'm going to try to make a handful more videos, put them out to you guys, and, continue to grow, because I really appreciate all of you guys sticking around, being here. So, see you on Tuesday. Peace.